some of the things we looked at in terms of where the population is and how it's made up. And we also looked at other aspects of socioeconomic characteristics. We compared the park to other parks in New York City, Southpoint being the one up there on the top. Similar in space to, say, Tompkins Square Park, if you've ever seen that. Bigger than Bryant Park in Manhattan. And then we looked at other things, access to the park, circulation within the park, access to the shoreline, various existing amenities like lampposts and benches, the restroom, not necessarily the greatest restroom, and other landmarks, up here the lab, and of course, obviously the hospital. You know, the landform in terms of the rock, outcrop, and we learned a great deal about what's really underneath there, what it's covering up. And of course, obviously the context of Cornell's future campus, where it's going to be, you know, at least stage one with the buildings in the northern end and a park in the southern end connecting to Southpoint. And then we also took a look at utilities because of any recommendations we might make that would have services or things there. We wanted to make sure that there was electricity, water, those ones in particular. So we took a look at this, and we also looked at the various landscaping that exists there right now. I don't mean to, I left that last because I just sort of went like this. Development of draft concepts. I wanted to say that we heard two major things from a lot of people over the course of this study. One was preserve the space for passive use. And our pictures there sort of just show typical passive uses. You're walking in the park, you're sitting, you're resting. And then we also heard a number of people saying, think of some creative opportunities for active use. Some of the things people talked to us about were educational opportunities, the ability to just sit maybe at a kind of a play chess or checkers, maybe have some performances, perhaps have some light physical activities like throwing a frisbee. These are the things we heard. And obviously, you know, at first we said, well, this is sort of versus. These two things are in conflict. But what we have come up with is, the most important thing is to form a balance between these two types of uses. And that's really been our guidance, that we felt that they were not mutually exclusive, that there are elements that are adaptable, either in terms of the flexibility of their use, their seasonality, time of day, and other things. So that was kind of this has really been our driving force over the last few months to come up with ideas. So in November, we showed this to people. We said, up top is the way it's really used today. The entire space is preserved for passive use. Then we came up with three possible alternative concepts where on the bottom, I'm sorry, the whole thing's on the bottom. On the bottom left, it's kind of an east-west split where, and this was just a concept that we wanted to share with people and get their reaction to, where on the eastern side, it would be the space preserved for passive use. On the western side, it would be maybe adaptable space, potential for active use. Right away, we heard at our meeting is, well, that idea is okay, but you ought to flip it the other way around, because we'd like to be able to have the passive use on the Manhattan side because of the great views and everything. And let's have the active use on the Queens side because they're not as great views. It's just an opinion that we heard. In the middle was the idea of perhaps having the passive uses along the shore, the most important, you know, the shoreline walks, and have the adaptable potential active uses in the middle. And then the third concept we looked at was to do it sort of a north-south basis, where on the southern side would be preserved for passive use. And again, I should say the green is always the passive, the yellow, brownish is the potential for active use. We shared this with people in our November meeting, and we asked people, you know, which ones they liked. We actually asked them to stand next to the ones they liked. I'll just let you know, this is not like what we're deciding to do. This was the most popular one right here, the one in the middle, the one that had along these shores more passive uses and the potential for some active use in the middle. So that's just one thing we heard. It was actually sort of an overwhelming number of people said they liked that better. The second most one was this one, keeping it the entire space reserved for passive use. Then we actually said, okay, let us take a look at the draft-based concept, the one we have here. We don't really change this, but there are improvements that we think should be thought about and considered. So let me just go through them. Sorry, I think I have. So it might help me. Great. Does it work? Yeah. This one down here, taking the northeast entrance, moving it out a little bit further north. So it's you get to enter right away, not right by the bathroom. So that's that. We also talked about having another entrance here, right in the middle, and this would link up really well with people coming through the Cornell open space. Another thought we had was to get rid of the north fence. There's some issues related to that, especially when we talk with the security department about how that fence is actually very useful sometimes when you're trying to funnel people in, either to Fort Freedom's Park or for certain events. And so maybe there could be potential ways to deal with that issue. But we also thought with the open space that Cornell's going to be getting rid of that fence might be a nice way to open up the whole area. We talked about maybe having some historical markers around the lab so people really can understand what's going on there, what's it all about, why is it such a beautiful space. Also, perhaps also around the smallpox hospital. And moving the east and west fences a little further out so people can actually get closer to the water. Now this would work out really well because right now, RIOC is undertaking, I believe right now on the eastern side, a whole new kind of stabilization resiliency thing to try to protect the island from future storms and seawater rise events. And by doing that, they're going to be able to just push the park out a little bit. So that, again, these are things that don't take a lot of effort and fit in well with some plans how they're going. Also, the FDR Folk Memorial right there is something that's planned and will be coming soon, hopefully. And then, of course, there is the whole smallpox hospital, which, early on in the study, we talked to people about uses for that, and we got back a lot of people telling us things like, a lot of people said, just leave it stabilized, don't do anything with it, just make sure you can stabilize it, so it's not going to fall down. Some others said things like, anywhere from a museum to some kind of a cultural space. There were even some thoughts about food related, not a restaurant so much as maybe a market or simple food. But that's still years away because we're still in the stage where they're going to have to spend a great deal of money and a great number of years just thinking about stabilizing the structure. So that may be toward the end of a 10-year period. Also, in this draft-based concept, where we're not saying don't really change anything major about it, there are other things that could happen that people have talked about, and we don't exactly know where they would go, but people talk about loving the natural landscaping and keeping that to the extent that we can, providing some more trees for shade, having the seating be more comfortable, maybe not so hot in the summertime when you sit on it, and maybe different types of seating that would make that just be a better place to sit. Bird feeders is another possibility. Maybe some ecological markers, identifying some of the vegetation. Perhaps some picnic tables in some areas, not barbecue areas, but picnic tables. Perhaps at different times of year, public art, like is displayed in other parts of the island. And of course, similar to some kind of vista point, which would be similar to what you have on much of the rest of the island. So these are some things that are part of the draft-based concept that can also be put forward in other concepts as well. But we just wanted to say this would not even be rethinking how the space would be used much. It's just adding some things to it. But let me go to some of the other concepts If I'm taking too much time.
If we could just maybe
Sure.
summarize and then move on.
Okay, and let me just skip this one then. In draft concept A, again, passive use on the top, active use on the bottom. We talked about some things like a gazebo, maybe around here, that would be somewhat akin to the suggestion that's been made of a pagoda or a facility like that. Game area, again, sort of where people could play chess or checkers. A splash pad is something here that would be seasonal, that could be taken off in the winter and so forth. Boardwalk along the western side. And this was something that was mentioned. Stairs, sort of stone stairs up the hill, and leveling out somewhat. And then, of course, around here, the butterfly corridor. We did ask people at the end of our session, what things did they really like? What would they, we actually did it in the way, like you said, if we give you a certain amount of money, what would you pay for it? And among the things here that we heard about, the gazebo and the butterfly corridor. Now that's really just natural plants that would attract butterflies. It's nothing more than that. It's not one of those tent-in areas where you sometimes go and visit and pay to go in. So this is one of the things for draft concept A. For B, again, where the active space would be somewhat more in the middle. Among the concepts we talked to people about were a sculpture garden, perhaps a sculpture garden up here, perhaps letting in some local vendors, not just maybe some trucks or some people selling water or things like that, right toward the northern edge. Perhaps a regrading of the hill, again, to make it somewhat more usable for those who have some accessibility issues, as well as stepping stones and plantings. We talked about an amphitheater and a nature play area. And you see the different colors here. They really reflect it. I haven't gone into it. Different costs. Obviously, regrading an amphitheater would be the most expensive. And having local vendors come in, which is really just opening up, having a policy for that, would be the least expensive. The only thing that we really heard here that people supported a lot was the nature play area. And that was sort of suggested in the area closest to the smallpox hospital. I'm not saying that's what's going to be, but that's what we heard the most support for. Finally, in this layout of how the space could be used, we looked at other ideas. Instead of an amphitheater, maybe a smaller stage area, realign the pathway, some kind of a play space right up here. Even the concept of bringing in the old tram cars, placing them here, and they could be used for various purposes, whether it's playing for kids or having adults come in, sitting, or having a performance, or something like that. Meditation area over here, and up here maybe a hammock area. The things we heard here that a number of people liked were the hammock area and the old tram cars. There's a lot of support for those. And what we did basically was ask people to mix and match. Don't stick it in any one concept. So those are some of the things that we talk about. I just wanted to let you know, this latest part is not yet on our website. It will be up there very shortly. But our next step is to have a community advisory committee meeting in this space, Tuesday, December 13th. Anyone who's on the committee, we certainly want to have come. Anyone who's in the public, we would love for you to come. You can contribute, you can listen, you can hear about it. We'll be having a board meeting and a presentation, a public meeting in January, and our final plan will be in February. So, thank you, and I'm open for whatever questions.